Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to another Squads for Nudes video. Today we're going to be talking about the early Palpatine squad. It's kind of an amorphous squad, pretty flexible. The only two members that are always there are Palpatine and Vader. Well, Jade, if you have her, she's always there. But the last two slots can be flexible. Thrawn is pretty much dead set in there. If you do unlock him, you need Phoenix first for that. By the way, I am in a new room. I'm in a new office that we just finished. That I moved into yesterday, so this is going to be my studio for probably forever. I'm going to get more wall decoration behind me eventually, but right now I just moved in. So this squad, like I said, is pretty flexible. I mean, I think Thrawn is like core in there. Like if you have him, he's going in here with Palpatine and Vader. This team changes once people get Starkiller. They have Palpatine and Jade with Starkiller and Vader. There's no room for Vader, so that changes things. If you don't have a ton of extra teams, you can be pretty flexible. You can get, if you don't have, I don't know. If you're doing PvE, I use Piet to do Force Moon. So that's not GAC. You don't need to worry about breaking up teams. So those different characters can fit nicely. You can go on over to the Sith faction. If you don't have a decent Darth Revan team, Bastila is amazing in there. Nihilus is a good combo. But since we are talking about noobs and early game players, assumably, I'm actually going to throw in Tarkin for this discussion. He's very easily accessible early on. You need him for his fleet challenge, and he actually does synergize pretty well. So we're going to be going through the key mechanics of each character, Zeta Order, Relic Order, my mods, what I recommend and what I currently have, competitive mods, counters, what they're going to beat, and then finally a demonstration. So let's get into it, starting with Palpatine. So Palpatine is the namesake of this squad. Without him, it doesn't really work. So let's look at the leadership first. I'll show it without the Zeta and with the Zeta. The Zeta is amazing. That's one of my earliest Zetas on the Go Takes account this year. And back in 2019 when I started an account. So to start, Empire and Sith allies have 35% potency and 35% max health. Jedi and Rebel enemies lose potency and evasion, which is nice. People don't usually think about that. Whenever an Empire ally inflicts a debuff, they get 20% turn meter. So 5 debuffs, 100% turn meter. When a Sith inflicts a debuff, they recover 20% health. The only two Sith and Empire characters, other than Lord Vader, is Palpatine and Vader. So when Palpatine or Vader doing a debuff, they are both getting healing and turn meter. And if you have to pick between a Sith or Empire and you don't have the Zeta, usually an Empire is better because you prefer the turn meter over the healing, because that's a great offensive tool. When you add the Zeta, whenever a debuff on an enemy expires, Empire and Sith allies gain 5% turn meter. So once you have the Zeta, it's more open to Sith, and that's where like Bastila Fallen is pretty amazing. His unique Crackling Doom has a Zeta that I don't think is indispensable. I don't have it on my small account yet, but while he's active, at the start of each enemy's turn, they take 20% of their health damage for each of the following. They're a Jedi, they're a Rebel, or they're shocked. If you have a Jedi Rebel that's shocked, they're going to lose 60% of max health every turn. So keeping Palpatine is alive in assault battles and stuff, great for getting damage done. It can't defeat enemies, but if you have dots on them, they will die. So it'll consider Palpatine's unique damage first, and then the dot to finish them off. The Zeta, it's extra protection, and he's gaining protection when he shocks. So nothing too crazy. Fun move, Power of the Dark Side, his AoE stun for everybody. It's only 70% chance, but I've seen it stun all 5 before. Stun for 1 turn. If they're shocked, they're stunned for 2 turns, and then they have their shock dispelled. So that's something you kind of want to, you want to be judicious about if you want to dispel the shock. But 2 turn stun, hard to pass up. And all allies gain offense up for 2 turns, so that's pretty nice. Why you want to be judicious about dispelling the shock. So on his basic, he inflicts shock for 3 turns and gains 15% turn meter for each shocked enemy. If you have a full team of 5 that's shocked, 75% turn meter. If it's like PvE and there's 6, 90% turn meter. Plus he lands a shock, so he's getting 20% turn meter from his lead. So you only need, if you have 6, it's a full loop. If you have 5, it's actually combined 95% turn meter. And the shock prevents buffs, turn meter, or recovering health. So leaving the shock, sometimes you want to keep there, because if it's a team that's going to gain turn meter or a character that's going to gain turn meter, you might not want to dispel that shock. So you got to be judicious about it. This move, I do this very infrequently. You have to have a specific purpose behind it. In GAC, you're going to cost yourself banners. But all other units lose 5% health. That's your allies and your enemies. Palpatine recovers health equal to 150% of the total amount lost. So first instance where I use this, if Palpatine is dying, he's almost dead, you need to heal him up, I do this. But he also gets 50% turn meter for each shocked enemy. So if you're trying to cycle through turns more and there's at least 2 shocked enemies, just pull the trigger, you're going to get another turn. All allies can health steal up for 1 turn. This is also useful. Like there have been some cases where if an enemy is at full health, they have benefits. And there was also that resistant Datacron. There might be another Datacron in the future where they can't die until everyone's gone under full health. That helps out there too, because it ignores protection. It just takes out the health. So that is Palpatine. That is the lead framework for this team. Next up, we got the man in the mask, Darth Vader. He is the firepower for the team, and Palpatine and him alone can get a lot done just together. What's the most fun about him is his merciless massacre. Without the Zeta, it's pretty boring. It's just 1 bonus turn with increased offense, crit damage. Basically kind of like a cooldown reaction to cycle through your other specials. Once you have the Zeta, though, you're getting bonus turns for each enemy. You can hit them with that increased offense and crit damage, and as long as you're targeting a merciless enemy, you just keep going. You gotta be careful, especially on auto, because if there's a taunting enemy and you hit auto targeting, he'll hit the taunting enemy instead of a merciless if you haven't targeted, so you'll end up going short there, but otherwise it's great. Let's go over his unique. I'm not going to go into his lead because I don't really use it. So without the Zeta, at the start of the encounter, he gains 8 speed until the end of the encounter for each of the following: Empire ally, Sith ally, Jedi enemy, Rebel enemy. And that stacks per character. So just Palpatine and Vader, that's 4 instances. So that's 32 speed from just those 2. Oh, and they're the only 2 Sith Empire other than Lord Vader. So, and then with the rest of the team, if you have 3 others, that's another 24. That's 56 speed just from his team. If you're facing a Jedi or Rebel enemy team, say there's Old Ben, Kanan Jarrus, Ezra Bridger, Kyle Katarn, all those are Rebel Jedi. He's going to get 16 from each of those. He can get well over 100 speed bonus. So factor that in when you're doing your calculations of who needs to go first. It's awesome. What the Zeta adds, he's immune to turn meter reduction, recovers health and protection whenever a dot expires, and when he does Merciless Massacre, it dispels stealth. So that takes care of the framework of what we're working with him. So the rest of his moves. Under a Palpatine team, 90% of the time you want to start with Force Crush because he's going to inflict speed down, 3 damage over times, and he'll just get another turn because of the turn meter gain from Palpatine lead. So you start with this and then go into Merciless Massacre. If there are instances where you can't gain turn meter, like you're shocked or dazed, you go into Merciless Massacre. Otherwise, you do Force Crush. Or if you're facing a team with Hux or JMK that prevent turn meter. So anyway, that out of the way, you start with this. Then you go to Merciless Massacre. What I like to do first is use Culling Blade on an enemy that has the most debuffs. So this does physical damage and dispels all debuffs on them. Deals 50% more damage for each effect dispelled this way. Increased 100% against raid bosses and grants 100% turn meter if the enemy is defeated. Plus 25% crit chance and can't be evaded. So the more debuffs, the more damage it's going to do, and it's also dispelling debuffs. Just a note again on this leadership. So when a debuff expires, that means if it's cleansed, if it expires naturally over time, if you throw the blade, that all counts as it expires. So you're going to get the whole team some turn meter, and then you just go around doing your basic. The basic is actually pretty solid. It's 80% chance for ability block naturally. Resist increased to 100% if they're Jedi or Rebel, and it can't be resisted by Jedi or Rebels. And it's pretty good damage too. So you do Merciless Massacre, you throw the sword, you come back around doing basics. I like to save when he gets up to Force Crush. I don't use it during Merciless Massacre. I do it after it expires to get even one more turn. So the best case scenario, you do Force Crush, then you do Merciless Massacre, then you throw Culling Blade, and then you basic everyone else, and then you do Force Crush again. After he's out of Merciless Massacre, if someone is close to dying and has a lot of debuffs, you do Culling Blade, and you get another turn. So it's so many turns in a row with him, it's crazy, and I hope to demonstrate that later. So yeah, that's Darth Vader. He's a beast. Again, not going over his leadership. And this is all about Palpatine. So yeah, he's a force. And next we got Mara Jade, the right hand of Emperor Palpatine. She is fantastic on her Palpatine because she was literally designed for his kit to go with him. And it definitely shows. It's awesome. So I know the Omicron's amazing in DW. I don't have it yet. You get basically a free turn, neutralize all protection on the enemy. It's good stuff. But her unique without it, the Palpatine's in the leader slot, Empire and Sith allies have plus 20% offense and potency. It's nice that it's Sith and not just Empire, so it's not completely excluding the other half of that coin. Otherwise, these useful pawn stuff, that's for a non-Palpatine team, so I'm not going to go into that. But at the start of her turn, she gains a stack of Loyal Hand until the end of the encounter. If Palpatine's the leader, which he is in this team, also gains a stack at one of his turns. Loyal Hand gives 10% max protection and offense. So 20 stacks of those, plus 200% max protection and offense. That's why I mod her for protection on my small account. On this account, I forget if I have it or not, but protection is great for her. And also, this is kind of just a funny thing. If Jedi Knight Luke's on the other squad, he gets blinded every turn whenever she takes a turn. That just symbolizes how he was blinded by his love and attraction for her, which was in those comic books. However, these specials are what make her so functional under Palpatine. This one is potentially the most potent. Special damage to all enemies, inflict offense down, shock, and stagger. So 3 debuffs, because we just want to load people up with the debuffs on a Palpatine team. If you have the Zeta, which I do, she's gaining turn meter, or Palpatine's gaining turn meter for each debuff inflicted by this ability. Even without the Zeta, which you don't really need the Zeta. Mara Jade gains stealth for 2 turns with this ability and 1.25% turn meter for each debuff inflicted by this ability. She doesn't really need that turn meter because of Palpatine's lead. She gets so much anyway because this is potential 3 debuffs. So only 5 of them, that's 15 total, only 5 of them have to land to get 100% turn meter. But the key thing in which one you decide to use first, that one has stealth. So remember that for a second. And this Zeta, on my 300 Zeta main account, I don't have it. It's not double damage to shock to enemies and Jedi. These specials aren't really about damage dealing. They're about debuffs and control. So the first special is dispel all buffs and stun and vulnerable for 1 turn the target enemy, but more importantly, tenacity down for all enemies. So if the enemies don't have a ton of tenacity or you have tons of potency, that might not be your biggest concern. You might want to just go straight for this. I look at this as a preparation, a prep move for this, Infiltrate and Disrupt, because the shock and stagger are definitely the most important. The stagger, once you hit the stagger again, not only is it removing all the turn meter, it's expiring. So it's giving you turn meter from just hitting those staggers. So fantastic, just amazing. And then our basic is also quite good. Deals special damage to target enemy twice and daze them. If Palpatine's the leader, he's going to assist if it's Mara Jade's turn. Otherwise, a random ally with useful pawn assist. Okay. But yeah, she's calling Palpatine to assist all the time. And based on his basic getting turn meter from shocked enemies, a lot of times he'll just get another turn right after that, after her basic. If you really need to go into stealth, like you're facing a counterattacking team, you definitely want to start with this. If you could afford it and just get the tenacity down to ensure those debuffs land, I start with that. But yeah, she gets the train going so much. There's tons of extra debuffs that aren't always applied by the rest of the team. Stagger for even more control. As if you didn't get enough turn meter, you can completely shut down the enemy's turn meter with the stagger and the shock. Just amazing. So that is it for Mara Jade. And our 4th man on the team is Thrawn. He has a more simple kit compared to the others, and all revolves around Fracture. So Fracture, when I started playing this and got Thrawn, it was not immediately apparent what the value of Fracture was from reading the kit. You do damage 4 times, remove turn meter, but the main thing is you inflict Fracture. So the Fracture, basically, unless it's a GL, it basically takes one character and removes them from the battle, essentially, until they lose Fracture. Their speed is 0, they can't gain buffs, bonus attacks, bonus turn meter. They can get bonus turns, so they can get a bonus turn, but then they can't move. On Raid bosses and Galactic Legends, it's just reduced speed. and counter chance. But when you have them fractured, they're just not doing anything. Their uniques are applying to others, whatever they do, but they're just sitting there. And his ebb and flow unique is all about controlling while fractured. I think this is the Zeta. So without the Zeta, he has 50% counter chance, tenacity, and minus 50% speed while an enemy's fractured. And you want him to not have speed, because when he takes a turn, he lets go of the fracture. When another Empire ally uses a special while this is active, the ally gains 15% turn meter, so even more turn meter for your team, as if you didn't have enough. And if enemies are fractured, Thrawn loses 15% turn meter. The Zeta it adds counter chance, adds tenacity, and whenever another Empire uses special, fractured enemies lose. Is that? Oh, the fractured enemy loses turn meter too, so that's part of the Zeta. So that's about controlling his turn meter and the enemy's turn meter while they have fracture. And that's the big thing with him. I mean, after you fracture first turn in most cases, then you swap turn meter to someone else to recover health protection, and get back around to fracture. Swap turn meter is just what it sounds like. Whatever the turn meter is on your target ally, Thrawn takes that much turn meter, and the ally basically gets a free turn. And swapping turn meter, I think, has like a higher priority than 100% turn meter gain or bonus turns, so you are going to get that next turn. So you swap back and forth, you're going to cleanse, you're going to get protection to hopefully get back around to fracture. The basic's okay. It gives speed up to enemies, and then when that expires, it they get ability block for one turn. So if you just dispel it, they'll get ability block. But if any enemy, this is the most useful thing about it to me, if any enemy has ability block, the basic stuns them, and it can't be resisted, which is pretty nice. Raid boss, kind of whatever. I don't know when you can use them in a raid anymore. But yeah, stunning, ability blocks, fits very nicely in with Darth Vader. And that's it for Thrawn. And last, and definitely least, is Grand Moff Tarkin. So Tarkin is the most substitutable one. I'm just going over him for the sake of early game Palpatine teams because he's pretty accessible. He does slot in pretty well with this special. He gains potency up, but he inflicts crit chance down and offense down for 3 turns. So just some extra debuffs. And he's going to get his other turn from inflicting all these debuffs. Rebel enemies can't resist him. He gets turn meter from it even without Palpatine's lead. So with his lead, he definitely gets probably the next turn with all the overflow turn meter. And then usually you do ultimate firepower. A 100% chance, if you have the Omega, to remove 50% of their turn meter. And you gain offense equal to double his potency percentage. And he kind of stacks potency. He gains defense equal to his potency percentages. That's not it. He's gaining potency somehow. It might be his, yeah, it's his basic. So when he does his basic physical damage, 10% more damage for each living ally. He gains 50% potency until the next time ultimate firepower is used. So there are instances where you could just do basic over and over with him. I don't know where this would apply anymore, but sometimes you just inflict tons of basics and then ultimate firepower really gets juiced up and it does a lot of damage. For the most part, I just recommend spamming this and then this to remove turn meter. With this combined with Jade actually has pretty good control over enemies. As you can see, I don't have either of these Zetas. The lead we're not really going to talk about, and then the unique. This is like, I don't know. This is like a relic of the past, how short this unique is. He gains defense equal to his potency percentage, and then 20% potency for a debuffed enemy with this Zeta. And I don't have that on my main account. Don't worry about that. That is just not an issue. But yeah, that's Tarkin. He's the last and most expendable member of the team. Now we're going to talk about Relic Order. So the Relic Order is pretty simple. There's one easy choice. Darth Vader, first relic on the team. Easily. The rest of them, it's kind of like other considerations other than the team. The main thing you get from all of them is survivability. None of them are like the damage dealer except Darth Vader. I'd say Thrawn next for relics just because he has a good capital ship. So I'd say him second. Third, I don't know, it depends. Jade's pretty tanky already at gear 13 or at gear 12. Palpatine's kind of flimsy. I loaded him up with protection mods and It still was lower. So I'd probably go Palpatine third just to make him less flimsy. But him and Mara Jade are pretty even, pretty close. And Mara Jade does do more damage than him, so that could edge it out. So they're kind of a tie for third, honestly. I would probably do Palpatine. And then Tarkin, I wouldn't even do it until you're farming Lord Vader and you need to relic him. But yeah, that's it for Relic Order. As far as Zeta Order, if you look at my team right now as I have it, you'll see 7 total Zetas. The potential, I have 3 not applied, 4 not applied. There's a potential for 11 Zetas on this team. You only really need 2. You need Vader's Merciless Massacre. I'd get that first, because that transforms his utility. And then you need Palpatine's lead. That's it. After that, you can just kind of sit there and not worry about it. If you are going for a 3rd and 4th Zeta, I'd probably go 3rd, No Escape. Vader's unique, just so you're dispelling stealth. It seems like it doesn't happen that often, but it happens so much to me where like there's someone stealthed, and I'm like, it's always annoying on my small account because I don't have this yet. So that's a big thing. And then immune to turbulent reduction is actually pretty nice. So that would be number 3. Number 4, I'd say Palpatine's unique. I don't think it's super necessary, but it's extra survivability for him that just keeps going up, and flimsiness for him is kind of an issue. So that's number 4. Number 5, I'd probably go with Ebb and Flow, just for extra counter chance, tenacity, turn meter control on enemies. So that's 5. 6, you know, Emperor's Hand, just so you can get to the Omicron. And this is the only Omicron on the team, so let me just talk about it now. If you are good at if your guild wants you to get it, definitely get it. I've just been able to get by without it, and trying to keep up in GAC, there's tons of Omicrons I need to get. But in TW, at the start of the battle, if the enemy leader is not a Galactic Legend, they lose 100% protection, 50% max protection. So they have no protection, so you won't see the protection bar. But then also, even if they're recovering, they can only recover up to half their max total. So that's what that means. The Jade gains 100% turn meter. Whenever an enemy unit is defeated, inflict vulnerable for 1 turn on a random enemy, which can't be prevented, and allies gain 20% max protection. So it is fantastic territory war Omicron. So that would be the reason to get that Zeta, to get to the Omicron, mainly. The rest you don't need. You don't need Vader's lead. You don't need Thrawn's lead, obviously. They're not applicable. And don't need Tarkin's lead, and don't need his unique. And you could use anyone else. If you have any good teams that aren't completely late, like you have Massive Sean Fallen, not Darth Revan, throw in here. If you have Nihilus, not Treya, throw him in here. Lots of good options. So that is Zeta and kind of Omicron order. Now let's look at mods. These are my mods first, and I'll give my reasoning behind it. So I think most people, the common thing is going to be speed. I did health and protect and defense sets because I just care about him staying alive. See, I have almost 40,000 extra protection that feeds into his unique 2, and I only have 66 speed. That's crazy. I even have a protection arrow because he gains so much turn meter on his own. I use him with Starkiller, so that's why. Like Mara Jade calls him to assist. He gets a lot of turn meter anyway, and then he's just like, most of his turns are most of his turn meter gains just from debuffs and things. So I just want him to survive, and you know, in the teams you take on, a lot of times they pick on Palpatine, so I just want him to survive. So that's why I have him like that. Vader on the main account, this account, and what I think is optimal. I have offense and potency sets with a crit damage triangle. I have decent speed too. He's 269 plus 128. Not really focused too much on the health and protection. 50% extra potency. Just trying to cycle through turns and do damage and land debuffs. So offense and potency and whatever speed you can do makes sense for him. Mara Jade, lots of speed, so much speed. She's most of the time going to be your first ally to go, unless there's tons of rebel enemies and Vader might go first. And then potency and, you know, whatever damage you can do. Potency for the cross. This, you know, optimally should be protection, but I don't know. I'll have to look into that. I was focused more. I don't know. I was focused more on the speed, and I have offense on that. Protection, offense, crit damage. They're all kind of equal in the triangle. Thrawn, I have him modded for a good bit of speed, plus 135. It's like decent chunk, not insane. But he's not really a damage dealer. I just have him speed's the main primary focus. So I gave like, this is a crit chance mod. I don't care about the crit chance too much, but it was 26 speed. He's one of those characters I'm not worried too much. Same here, like defense isn't a great primary, but I have a lot of speed on that mod, and then health, whatever. Tarkin, I don't care about him. I don't even use his ship anymore. One of my first videos on YouTube was using his ship to beat Profundity, and I had 6 top mods at that point. Now I don't care. I don't use him, so he's don't look at my mods for him. Now let's look at Swigga GG. So here we are, standard disclaimer, this is from the top 1,000 Kyber players in Swigga, so my mods actually factor into this. But this is the top end that might not be using all these characters for the same reason you are as a new player. Like Palpatine goes with Starkiller for the vast majority of these endgame players. This also can change based on moments in time with whatever Datacrons that's going out. However, I think this is pretty par for the course. What people are using speed and potency sets on Palpatine. That's used by 43.5% of the player base. And the rest of that's pretty low splits. So, yeah, I don't know. 7% using variants of potency and health mods. Some use speed and health. Others use offense and potency. But people are mainly focusing on speed. However, I am a part of this 25% that just does protection. Because you want him to survive. He's getting lots of turn meter anyway. And he's never going to be the first one to go. So it's always going to be turn meter gain from someone landing debuffs. Expending them, whatever, or Mara Jade's basic and him assisting. Protection, I think protection is dominant choice. Like if you can do it, protection on the triangle. Circle, same thing, 87%. That's a huge dominant majority on the circle. If you watch these types of videos often from me, you'll see a lot of times it's more even split. And then the cross is the only place where I'd argue you could go something other than protection. So potency is great. So potency or protection, I think either one of them is fine. The average speed of these players have at 251. Mine is way slower than that. So Vader, this is exactly what I have. Offense and potency. Both people focus on speed, crit chance, protection. I think that'll be pretty even split. 20%. Oh, wow, it's only 20% using that. 17% using crit damage and crit chance. Crit chance, I think, is a mistake on him. You get so much crit chance from Merciless Massacre. You get like 50% crit chance. And if they're in relics, you don't need it. So I think that's kind of a mistake. Crit damage is, yeah, it's okay, I guess. I think offense, I haven't done a study on it, but I'm sure I think people have done it in the past. Pure offense set has a higher damage ceiling than crit damage. Because you have the crit damage triangle. 42% is better than the whole set of crit damage, as opposed to offense sets. An offense set, it gives you 50% offense, but offense primary gives you like half that, 8.5%. So I think offense is the best. But a lot of people are doing crit damage. Some people doing speed, 15% here of speed, and the other opponents here crit chance. But crit chance, mistake. Speed, for sure. I think you got to go with speed. Offense is kind of a fringe. Yeah, some people use that. Crit damage, 83%. Definitely use crit damage. Always use crit damage on the triangle. Unless you have barely any mods and you just can't. You just don't have it. But yeah, it's pretty even here on the circle. Protection mods are just more prevalent in general, so that's why there's more there. And then potency on the cross. Potency or offense are the only acceptable options, in my opinion. So just go with that. Mara Jade, speed and potency. And this is pretty dominant. I'm going to say, 57%. 15% use speed and health. But that's just because a lot of endgame players have a lot of health mods that are fast, so they're just using those. Crit chance, meh. All potency, no, because you want it fast. Speed, 98.5% on the arrow. And then, yeah, the triangle, it's kind of split. I mean, crit damage, offense. I have offense, protection, crit chance. You can't really go wrong. I think you mainly just care about speed. I mean, the worst being crit chance and defense, just general, because they're the worst. More protection than health, although that's a smaller majority than I'd expect. But I'm one of the offenders. I have health there. The cross, potency, 83%. Yeah, potency, you gotta do potency with her, because she just needs to land those debuffs. And if you're going the one that's not tenacity down first, you need the extra potency. Thrawn, speed, protection. So, like, that's what people are using. 47% use speed and health. And that's just because they're trying to be the fastest. You don't care too much about the secondary set, as evidenced by the third most populous group having no second set. Speed and tenacity, speed and crit chance, just speed and something. Whatever you have the fastest mods on. Speed, survivability, protection, health. I don't know what the crit damage is for. Maybe it's just because it's fast. Protection over health. Well, it's also because he recovers his own protection, so you pass it back and forth. So that's a reason to go for protection more than health. And 48% of people are using that on the cross. Then there's tenacity, health. Survivability stuff. Don't worry about damage. Tarkin is, whatever. I mean, speed and potency are all potency. People don't use him much in general. I think the reason there's only 75% speed is because people just don't care about his mods, and they just give him a 6-dot crappy mod just for ships. That's what I think. Is that people don't really care what he's doing in his triangle or the circle. The potency makes the most sense for the cross, but everything else is just kind of like apathetic. You don't really have to worry too much about Tarkin. He's just the optional fifth. And now let's look at some counters and what you can use to, what you can use them to beat, and then some counters. So first, let's talk about what they beat. I am using GAC Insight and filtered by everything except Kyber. So, and because in Kyber it's mostly just Starkiller. I have filtered by Palpatine, Thrawn, Vader, and Mara Jade. I did not filter by Tarkin, just to show you some of the other alternatives here. A lot of people use Royal Guard. I like Tarkin better than Royal Guard because you just want someone to keep the turn meter train going, not take hits for you. Geos is a very popular counter. They're really good against Geos. I mean, you shock them, you stagger them. There's 6 of them to give you a turn meter, so they really have Geos on lockdown. Grievous, 60% can happen. Phoenix without Rex, nearly 100%. So great counter. Ewoks, nice counter. Night Sisters, even with Marin, decent, 80%. I wouldn't try it on gas. So here's the thing, Padme without C-3PO is a lot easier to beat. So 59% with C-3PO, here's without 77%. So that you'll see that it's closer to 50, 60% with C-3PO, closer to 80% without. And that's because C-3PO gives out protection up passively, which causes you to not be able to land debuffs. So if there's no C-3PO, you control them. Fracture, probably Anakin, or General Kenobi, just to get around taunts. Try to kill Anakin first and Padme, and that's how you do it. CLS, 32%. The problem is Han shoots first, everyone assists, and someone important usually dies. So that doesn't usually work out well. Bounty Hunters, easy to beat them. Phoenix with Rex, not so great, closer to 40%. Bad Batch, yes, you're going to beat them. Revan, this one's tricky. So to beat Revan, this is one of those instances where you start with Merciless Massacre and not the AoE because they have tenacity up. You ability block everyone except Revan. Try to fracture Revan, and then you can maybe make it go from there. But it's hard. Landing this is another instance where you want to start with tenacity down from RJ to try and counteract that tenacity down. So yeah, I think those are good examples of things you're going to come across that would be good to use Palpatine on in GAC. I mean, and they're amazing in assault battles, which I have videos specifically on. So go watch those if you want. I should leave a link to the challenge tier 2. I'm going to try to leave a link to the challenge tier 2 for Force Moon and Blazes of Power in this video. To beat them, you kind of just see the flip side of the coin for the teams I said don't use them against. CLS takes them out kind of easily, close to 9%. Gas is going to crush them. Geo's not going to work well. Darth Revan's going to work well. You can't reduce their turn meter if they're debuffed. And there's Fear. Mallet causes a lot of problems for the Fear. Palpatine can beat Darth Revan, but Mara Jade isn't great for that because she's going to get feared. And Vader only doesn't get feared when he's in Merciless Massacre. So, yeah. GL is great. Grievous has kind of an iffy record. Wampa, when there's... it looks like Tarkin's worse for Wampa. Royal Guard helps. That's on defense. But I think this is a primarily offensive team. Troopers is so-so. If Mara Jade's going before Troopers, they're going to have a rough time. So you really got to figure that out. And then Phoenix with Rex, pretty good counter. So there's some stuff, but super valuable. Their real value is in PvE early. So I'll put the links to those 2 videos down below. And time finally for a demonstration. So for our demonstration, we're going to be fighting this Mon Mothma team in Galactic Challenges. And it's actually a pretty perfect team to demonstrate because we have a lot of Rebels over there. We got Jedi. One thing to note, this modifier is going to kind of screw up some of the dynamics. Whenever an ally uses a special ability during their turn, call a random ally to assist. So I'm going to point out where that is not part of the normal Palpatine kit. So let's get into it. Just for reference, my Jade 364 speed. My Darth Vader 269 speed. I have plus 56 speed here and a whole bunch from over there. So 269 to 364. That is 95 less speed, but since there's a bunch of rebel enemies, check it out, Vader goes first. So, and it's close, Marjay's close. I didn't count it all up, but we got 1 2 3 4 5 6 times 8 is 48. So he's getting over 100 speed extra. They don't have anything to stop me from getting turn meters, so I'll start with a Force Crush. I'll pop in a Merciless Massacre. These assists, that's the modifier that doesn't happen with the Palpatine. So I look around after I go Merciless, see who has the most debuffs, because I wanted to get turn meter for us. So I just chuck it. That guy had 3 debuffs. The basics are not going to be calling those stupid assists. So yeah, we're just trying to loop around, go this. And I'll probably chuck it on him again, because everyone else is debuffed. If there was a ton of debuffs and I could kill him, that would be awesome. Now, I don't see a pressing need to go into stealth, so I'm going to go ahead and do Tenacity down first. And I did that, I targeted Cardoon because she had a buff. So do that, landed all the staggers. Without all the staggers except Cardoon. Without that, probably land a lot fewer. Here, you know, I have some shocks. I could not use this and leave the shocks on, but I think I have a lot more gain from shocking them, stunning them a couple turns, and hitting the staggers. It's a 3-for-1 value. So see, all those I had stagger, 0 turn meter, including Mon Mothma, which is important because we can't target Mon Mothma. So now let's just start spreading the shocks again. I don't need to fracture anyone right now, so I'm not going to do that actually. Let's pass to Vader. He is getting close to another special. So here, watch this. Get another turn with Tarkin. Hopefully we push back our turn meter. And we got it. So even more turn meter control. Let's fracture. Let's just go ahead and fracture copy. And spread our shocks. I'm going to call Palpatine to assist with Jade's basics. So there, I've spread out shock to as many people as I can. And in this case, I like to keep the weak alive just to feed more turn meter with a shock. If they die, we're going to get everyone a bunch of turn meter, but we're going to lose extra turn meter from Palpatine. It's not a huge deal right now, but maybe we kill him. Mon Mothma is close, so I'll try to stun her. Got her. So that reapplied stuns on everybody. At this point, we're just kind of playing with our food. I don't want to chuck the sword because the culling blade because everyone is stunned. It is actually. That assist is not normal. That shouldn't happen. Neither should that assist. So just be warned, that's not the natural course of the Palpatine team. Pretty soon we can start doing the chucking the blade. Okay, I'm gonna chuck it here. Got him. And at this point, we're just preventing them from killing themselves because they have all these dots and the shocks. Kyle Katarn's going to take a big fat 60% of his health damage from Palpatine's unique when he takes a turn, and then the dots will kill him. We've just controlled their turn meter so much they're not actually taking turns. But there we go. That was just... I couldn't have picked a better Galactic Challenge to demonstrate on. They did not get any turns. You can control them completely, Tarkin adds that last little bit that you need to completely control him. So that's why I recommend him early on as a 5th, before you move on to like Starkiller teams and whatever. And that is Palpatine for Noobs. Thanks so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed, hope you learned something, and I'll see you next time.